I never thought I'd be telling a story like this, but here we are. For the past 5 years, I've lived in Oak Ridge Estates. It seemed like the perfect suburban neighborhood: manicured lawns, friendly neighbors, the whole package. But there was always one tiny problem: our homeowners association, or more specifically, our HOA president, Karen Wilkinson. Karen moved in 3 years ago, wormed her way onto the HOA board, and was president within 6 months. That's when the trouble started. The community rules suddenly became her personal commandments. Mailbox colors went from 6 options to 2 coincidentally, the 2 colors of her own mailbox. Holiday decorations now needed a 14-day pre-approval. And every Sunday morning, she'd patrol the neighborhood with a tape measure, checking grass height like it was a federal offense. For a while, I managed to fly under her radar. I'm a firefighter, so I work long shifts, and my lawn service kept everything pristine. I followed every single rule just to avoid a confrontation. I had the Karen-approved paint, the Karen-approved mailbox, and a welcome mat so bland it couldn't possibly offend anyone. I thought I was safe. I was so wrong. It all blew up last month after I installed some extra fire safety equipment in my house. Working in emergency services, I know how fast a fire can become a tragedy. I upgraded everything: new smoke detectors, carbon monoxide detectors, fire extinguishers, and even a fire escape ladder for the upstairs bedrooms. I also installed a small, discreet lockbox near my front door. It's a secure box where emergency responders can get a spare key if I am not home. It's a common safety measure, and many firefighters have one. Well, that tiny little lockbox was apparently my big mistake. I was on a 24-hour shift when I got an email from the HOA. It was a violation notice for an unauthorized exterior modification. Karen cited some obscure rule and gave me 48 hours to remove the lockbox or face a $50 daily fine. I replied immediately, explaining it was a safety device, and asked for retroactive approval. Her response came back in minutes: denied. Remove immediately. No explanation. No discussion. Just pure Karen. When I got home the next morning, a giant, bright orange violation sticker was plastered right over my front door's peephole. It took me 20 minutes and a ton of adhesive remover to get it off without ruining the paint. Super classy. Trying to handle this like an adult, I submitted a formal request with all the documentation recommendations from the fire department, photos showing how discreet the box was, and a full breakdown of its purpose. 3 days later, I received a certified letter. The response was a single sentence: request denied due to aesthetic concerns and security risks. Remove immediately or daily fines will begin. And get this, she signed it with a list of ridiculous titles she gave herself, including Guardian of Community Standards. I'm not even kidding. My next step was the HOA meeting, but when I checked the schedule, she had moved it to a Wednesday at 1 p.m., a time most working people couldn't possibly make. I took time off work and went anyway. It was just me, Karen, and 2 of her loyal board members. I calmly explained the safety benefits for the whole community. She just tapped her nails on the table, cut me off, and said, "The decision is final. This matter is closed." As I was leaving, she called out, "I'll be doing a compliance check tomorrow at noon. That box better be gone." She was so smug about it. Frustrated, I called a lawyer friend. He looked over the HOA rules and found something interesting: an exemption for safety and security devices of a reasonable size and appearance. My lockbox fit that description perfectly. He told me to send one last email citing that rule and to stand my ground. So I did. Karen's reply was predictable: your interpretation is incorrect. The board determines what qualifies. Decision final. The next day, I was on another 24-hour shift. I wasn't home when Karen did her compliance check. When I got back the next morning, I knew something was wrong right away. The lockbox was gone. Not just removed, it was ripped off the wall. There were deep scratches in my siding where someone had pried it loose with a tool. I immediately checked my doorbell camera footage, and my stomach just dropped. There she was, Karen, standing on my porch with a screwdriver and a small crowbar. The video showed her hacking away at the lockbox for nearly 15 minutes until it finally broke free. Then she just walked off with it, looking incredibly proud of herself, like she'd just saved the world. She had stolen my property, damaged my home, and did it all on camera. I was furious, but it got even worse. When I checked my security system logs, I saw that someone had entered my house while I was gone. My fears were confirmed when I went inside. Karen didn't just take the lockbox, she used the key from inside it to let herself into my home. And once she was inside, she went on a rampage. What she did next is unbelievable, and I have all of it on camera. Stay tuned for part 2, because you are not going to want to miss this. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. I got home from a long shift at the fire station, and my blood ran cold. My fire extinguishers were gone, all of them. The fire escape ladder from my bedroom window, missing. Even the smoke detectors were ripped off the walls, with wires just dangling there. This wasn't just petty HOA harassment anymore. This was dangerous, reckless, and life-threatening. As a firefighter, I've seen what happens when safety equipment isn't there when you need it. Karen had crossed a line, a serious one. I immediately called the non-emergency police line and explained the situation. An officer arrived, and I showed him the security footage. He watched Karen walk through my home, systematically removing every piece of safety gear. He looked at the empty mounts on the wall, the bare space where the ladder should have been, and just shook his head. This isn't a civil HOA issue anymore, he told me. This is breaking and entering, theft, property damage, and possibly reckless endangerment. He was taking this seriously. I gave him a full statement, copies of the footage, and photos of all the missing items. It was over $1,000 worth of essential gear. About 2 hours later, I got a call from the police station. They had visited Karen's home, and guess what they found? All of my missing safety equipment piled up in her garage. When they questioned her, she actually tried to claim she was just enforcing HOA rules by confiscating prohibited items. The officers didn't buy that excuse for a second. They officially charged her with breaking and entering, theft, property damage, and reckless endangerment. That last charge was the big one. As the officer put it, removing fire safety gear from someone else's home is like removing the brakes from their car. A neighbor who works at the courthouse gave me an update. Karen was arrested. Her lawyer tried to argue in court that she had HOA authority, but the judge completely shut it down, saying, "An HOA covenant does not override state law or basic property rights." Karen was released on bail, but with strict conditions. Stay 100 feet away from my property, and she was temporarily removed from the HOA board. A week later, the HOA vice president called an emergency meeting. This time, it was held at a reasonable hour, and the whole neighborhood showed up. The room was packed, and finally, people started speaking up. One neighbor shared how Karen had destroyed her garden because she used non-approved plants. Another talked about how Karen threw away their holiday decorations without any warning. Someone else's memorial bench for a deceased pet was removed from their own backyard because it wasn't on Karen's approved list. The stories just kept coming. By the end of the meeting, the board held a unanimous vote. Karen was permanently removed from all HOA duties. Every single rule she had pushed through was going to be reviewed. They even voted to formally apologize to me and cover all the costs for repairs and replacements, but Karen's downfall wasn't over yet. On top of the criminal charges, I filed a civil lawsuit against her for damages and emotional distress. Her employer, a local real estate company, put her on unpaid leave when they found out what happened. I guess having an employee who breaks into homes ain't exactly good for business. Then came the final blow. A judge updated her bail conditions, completely barring her from any HOA involvement whatsoever. She was also prohibited from contacting any resident in our community, except through her lawyer. The judge's reason was clear. She had a pattern of misusing authority to harass and endanger community members. When Karen heard these new restrictions in court, she completely lost it. Her face turned beet red and she started shouting, "This is my neighborhood. I'm in charge." The judge didn't hesitate. He immediately held her in contempt of court and ordered her to spend the night in jail. As the bailiffs escorted her out of the courtroom, the look on her face said it all. For the very first time, Karen realized that her actions have consequences. Thanks for listening to my story. It's a wild ride, but it just goes to show you should never let a bully win. If you enjoyed this, make sure to like and subscribe for more content. See you next time.